do that, or they actually try to do that, how to exactly relate to what you learn.
Okay. That's a good point. It's
Recorded
hard
her
for
life.
people to relate to you if they haven't been through a similar experience themselves. And so now you have your hand up.
Like, so an experience nobody can relate to would be like a really rare experience if you really ask me. Because I think anybody could experience anything at any time. There could be a point where someone experiences something similar to something you've experienced. That's just the quality you can share.
Okay. That's a good point. Anyone else before we move on? Again, we do have a lot to get into today. Okay, with that being said, let's quickly turn and talk with the people at your table. We want to refresh our memories. What is characterization, and how can characterization help us understand a character's development throughout a novel? So let's talk to the people at your table. I should hear voices. It's very quiet in here. So try to figure out that first question. What is characterization?
I'm not getting paid either. Speak up a little more when you're, yeah, just so I can hear you.
So, characterization. Whenever you give, like, I don't know, whenever you turn something into a character. Oh, this folder plays a massive role in my life because it helps me store things that you give me that I don't want.
Does it help you though? Does it help you?
Yes.
How? Thank you. All right, Jade, I know you got it. So guys, talk to each other about characterization. Because in 2 minutes, we're going to share our characterization. You can add on to what Antonio said or introduce something else. What is characterization?
Jaden, what do you think characterization?
Well, characterization is what really makes.
Louis, are you talking to Diana?
You did.
About what? Okay. I'm just going to quickly take attendance.
What's characterization? What's characterization? What? What's characterization? No, I know Myra. She's in my science class.
Most of the kids are on a trip today.
Ah.
But
So let's like the
Mora's annoyed. She's not getting perfectly.
sick version.
Am I disturbing anything?
Say it again?
I'm not disturbing the class, am I?
No. Today's what's going on today is thank you so much. Today what happened is we're starting a new novel, The Fault in Our Stars by John Green. We just gave it out. So we have a character that's coming in the first chapter. So we want the children to know what characterization is.
Excellent.
Even though they know it because they have to take a regent, they should know it. Like,
It's always good to
All right,
reinforce.
As we go over this, let's refresh our memories a little bit. What is characterization?
Something I give an avocado.
No, I want a real answer. What is characterization, if you remember?
Typically, it's something or something. Or like
Take your time.
Spit it out!
You got it. 3. You got it.
Like it's similar traits, like yeah, it'd be like personality.
Yes, so characterization does have to do with a character's traits. Personalities can be one of them, but there's some other things. Scott mentioned something when I was coming around, where Scott mentioned a character's thoughts or feelings.
yes.
And
What about what someone says?
their speech, the way that they speak is all part of characterization. And there's some other things. We can't just focus on internal traits, right? There has to be some that are external.
Yes.
For example, if I was describing Miss Collins, personality-wise, I would say that she's very confident, she's very bubbly, she's a very upbeat person. But if I'm describing Miss Collins physically, I would say that she has this beautiful red copper hair. She has a lovely black top on. cute boots and blue jeans. So when we are characterizing, we want to focus on a character's internal thoughts and feelings, the way that they speak, but we also want to pay attention to their physical descriptions.
I can characterize myself.
You can.
Okay.
We want to focus on characterizing people that we will encounter in our upcoming novel. So guys, let's copy this down into your notebooks. We want you guys to copy the definition of internal characterization and an acronym for STEAL.
I do that a lot.
We're stealing their character.
Ask it later.
I do that a lot.
It's why you.
I hope that you steal for characterization a lot.
I use steal a lot.
So
Why are you
guys,
stealing it?
indirect characterization.
Guys, let's quiet down and not talk while your teachers are talking.
That's crazy.
Indirect characterization, guys. Okay? Usually we just talk about full-on characterization, but we never really touch on indirect characterization. Okay? So indirect characterization is where the author hints to the reader what the character is like by describing the character's speech, their thoughts, the effects that they have on others or anything, their actions, and the way they look. Okay? So you're gonna write that down. You're also gonna write that using indirect characterization is where the author is showing, rather than telling you, the reader, what the character is about, what the character is doing. Okay? So example of indirect characterization is Sonia reached for her wallet the moment she saw the beggar. Remembering what it was like to be hungry as a child, she put her last dollar into his change bin, right? And direct characterization is because Sonia had grown up without much money, she developed a strong sense of compassion and gave to the needy every chance she got. Okay?
So again, make sure that you're copying this down. So we want to think about showing versus telling. So, if for direct characterization, when we listen to those examples that Ms. Collins read, Sonia gives us some background information, some context as to why she is giving the beggar money. She knows what it's like to come up from a lower socioeconomic status, and she did not grow up with much. That's why she's willing to be so charitable and so giving to a stranger on the street. However, in direct characterization, we're not being told that much about Sonia's background. Rather, we are kind of visualizing Sonia reaching into her pocket, grabbing her last dollar for this beggar because she knows from experience what it is like to grow up without food on her plate. So again, make sure that you're writing down the definition for indirect characterization, the acronym for STEAL, which will help us when we are characterizing the protagonist of our novel, The Fault in Our Stars. If you would like to copy down the examples that we've provided for you, I think they would be very helpful. However, you don't have to copy down everything. Please paraphrase. You always have to slam the folder or something.
Just gotta keep things interesting.
Yeah, keeps you on your toes.
Did you ever hear about the fat kid that jumped in close an earthquake?
No, we are not talking about that because that's not how earthquakes work.
I think if something's big enough to miss the floor, then yeah.
No, that's not even a thing.
Happens within the earth, not on.
I know, but think about it. If something really massive actually hit the ground, maybe closer.
Okay, save that for your science.
Did everyone write that they got the book? Alyssa, I gave you a book?
What book?
You gonna get it?
Oh, we're going to have a book now?
No? Everybody put their name down?
Focus on the acronym and indirect characterization. You want to take a picture of the example? Sorry.
Alrighty. So guys, we're gonna wrap up in like 30 seconds so we can move on. Because we're going to introduce you to a new character by reading chapter 1 today. By starting to read chapter 1.
I'll take any character right now.
Okay.
Any character.
Bless you. Thank you.
What is these?
I'm gonna show you.
Oh. Oh.
Give me her computer. computer, I'll move it for you. Thank you, sir.
So nice to see you.
I'll put your computer here, okay?
Commissioner, I give you a
Alright guys, so let's move on. Actually, we have some questions that can help us steal. You don't have to copy all of these, but please do take a picture of this. These are the questions we want to ask ourselves when we are stealing for characterization.
I steal a lot.
So when we are stealing for characterization, guys, this is what we ask ourselves. The S in steal. Speech. What is the character saying? How is the character saying it? How does this character speak? When he is speaking to other people, to himself. What is his speech like? Okay? Steal. The T is for thoughts. What is revealed through the character's private thoughts and feelings? What is he thinking about the situations at hand? What is adding to their emotions? Okay, what are they thinking about, right? The effects, E. What is revealed through the character's effect on other people? How do other characters feel or behave in reaction to the character? How is the character treating people? What is the character doing to others? What effect do people cringe when they come into their existence? Like, what effect does this person have on the people in the story with them? A, action. What is the character doing? How does the character behave? Is the character a happy kid? Does he throw books on the desk just to annoy the teacher? What is the character doing? What
I
is
wonder who you were quoting at. Or
Okay. And how does the character look? L, how does the character look? What does the character look like? How does the character dress? How does the character smell?
Seeming.
Did they just have fourth period gym?
Seeming is.
What do we know about this person? How does the person carry themselves? Okay? These are the questions that you're gonna ask when you're stealing for indirect characterization while reading, while taking notes, while annotating. This is what you're gonna be asking yourself. Is this relevant information? Would I be needing this for an analysis essay? Can I use this quote? These are the questions that you're gonna be focused on while you're doing that. All right? Smile, kid. Okay, so guys, definitely make sure you have what the STEAL means in your writing packet.
So wait, the whole earthquake just happened and I can't go home.
No.
No, you have to stay in English class and steal for
Yeah.
characterization.
And I did all.
Oh, I thought you were just gonna say you're staying in with class.
Yes. Make sure you write this down. Make sure
What about the avocado? I'm sure the avocado by now.
Alright, I think some people are jotting this down, so we'll give you guys about another minute to finish up your notes, and then we'll move on.
You don't have your
Yeah. Take your time. Media phones.
You gotta do the blur faces.
Better, please. I will. Hold on.
Alright guys, so let's move on.
Okay.
So Ms. Collins and I handed out Cornell note-taking sheets. This is what we will be using for every chapter of the novel when we are reading and actively annotating together. Cornell notes are a really meaningful note-taking system that helps us take intentional notes in an organized manner when we are actively reading. So again, we will be giving you these sheets for every chapter in the novel. And after every chapter, we will be collecting these and checking them, so make sure that during class, when we are reading together, or when you have assigned reading at home, you are using these.
Yes.
So can I go home?
No, not yet. Everything we touch on, guys, with regards to the chapter, just make a note of it on this, because we're bringing your attention to it for a reason, so that you can utilize it later on when we actually write an essay or something. Okay?
So we want to go over how we will be using the Cornell note-taking sheets. As you can see, there are two columns, one that's a bit smaller on the left-hand side of the paper, and we have one that is quite larger on the right-hand side of the paper. In the left-hand column, we want you guys to write down questions. These include the guided questions that will be assigned to you, or any self-generated questions, meaning if something arose while you're reading and you're a little bit confused about something, we want you to write it down. We also have the section for unfamiliar vocabulary words that we come across while we're reading. Also, any literary elements, for example, characterization that we'll be doing today, topics in the text, and also main ideas. On the right-hand side of the paper, we want you to write your responses to these questions. And also, please make sure you're including the page number of what you're referring to. In the future, when we are writing essays, when you look back at these papers and you have page numbers and quotations, it will make things so much easier when you're trying to find evidence. We also want to include some significant topics mentioned in the chapter. For example, there will be a lot of reference made to support groups or things that you wrote about for your poster projects, including America's Next Top Model, cancer treatment, etc. And then finally, these are your notes. If there's something that stands out to you believe is significant, please write it down on the paper.
Yes.
The whole point of this is to help you memorize and synthesize what we are learning in this class and what the chapter is about. Does anyone have any questions on how the Cornell note sheets are going to work?
What's this big area?
So that is for the responses to questions, quotes, page numbers, topics that we've mentioned from your posters that you've made, anything referring to that, you're gonna write it on here, and any notes that stand out to you about a character, about an idea, about what is going on in the story. You're gonna write it in the big section here.
And again, please feel welcome to take a picture of the Promethean board if you want to refer to this as you're taking notes.
All right, anybody else got any more questions? If you need extras too, you guys, we have them,
Yes.
so you can get. You good? All right. So, guys, at the start of each chapter, we're gonna give you guys guided questions that you guys are gonna be focusing on for that chapter while you're reading, right? And these guiding questions are here to help you break down and take a closer look of what we're sharing with you guys and what we're reading about for you guys to understand and better grasp what's going on in the text, okay? Also, these are the guiding questions for chapter 1. Listen very carefully. While you're reading, keep this in mind. What is Hazel's diagnosis? Okay, so the new character that we're being introduced to, her name is Hazel. All right, what is her diagnosis? What is her attitude towards death? What does Hazel continue to do? Why does she continue to go to support group? What does it mean to Hazel when people take the elevator at the support group? Hazel describes her appearance on page 9. Do you think her description is accurate? And what does Hazel mean when she says people ignore the inevitability of human oblivion? Do you guys agree with her? You guys should remember the word oblivion. We did that last week with introducing you guys to the vocabulary words that's going to be in the book. So everyone should know what oblivion means by now. And remember, not next Wednesday, the Wednesday after, we will be having a quiz on the vocabulary words, okay? So you guys ready to start?
Yes.
All right, and remember all our guided questions will be posted on Google Classroom. And there might be times where we will ask you to submit your responses
So
to
now
these questions.
we're gonna read
So
the
please
book
make sure that you're
out
answering
loud.
them.
So,
So now with that being
I don't know
said,
if to
please open
record
up your
or
novels to
stop it.
page
What do you think?
3. That is where chapter 1 begins.
so we're gonna let it play for a little bit. But while we're reading, show the posters that they made. Okay. It's just a big polish it. Okay. Thank you, Miss Whitney.
I'm just talking about my friend, I'm talking about how, why other friends
reading, you have your pen in your hand. You're ready to jot down notes at any point.
What if we're doing it but not doing it actively?
And that's really disappointing to me, Antonio.
What's the difference between active note taking and non-active note taking?
You just don't have your pencil.
What's the difference between active note taking and non-active note taking? What is the difference? What's the difference between active note taking and non-active note taking? No, I mean,
You signed it.
Think of what I'm doing, just
Yes.
drawing.
But active notes is while you're reading, you're taking notes, you're jotting down every little piece of evidence you need to understand what's going on. That makes sense?
yeah. It's a big first letter for a novel. Why is it?
That's a
All right, guys, let's get started again. Your novel should be open to page 3. Just for future reference, when we're in the middle of doing something, wait for a better time.
And guys, so we're going back to those who had me last semester know. When we're reading, we are not going to the bathroom. Try your best. If you have to go find this, get up, take
did
the
that?
pass. Yes, but when we're reading, we don't go to the bathroom.
You never did that?
Yes. You know you said. All right, so we're gonna start.
All right, guys, so make sure your novels are open again. You should be actively taking notes.
Page 3, page
The
3.
Fault in Our Stars by John Green. Chapter 1. Late in the winter of my 7th year, my mother decided I was depressed. Presumably because I rarely left the house, spent quite a lot of time in bed, read the same book over and over, ate infrequently, and devoted quite a bit of my abundant free time to thinking about death. Whenever you read a cancer booklet or websites or whatever, they always list depression among the side effects of cancer. But in fact, depression is not a side effect of cancer. Depression is a side effect of dying. Cancer is also a side effect of dying. Almost everything is, really. But my mom believed I required treatment. So she took me to see my regular Dr. Jim, who agreed that I was veritably swimming in paralyzing and total clinic depression, and that therefore my meds should be adjusted, and also I should attend
Behind the scenes act.
This support group featured a rotating cast of characters in various states of tumor-driven unwellness. Why did the cast rotate? A side effect of dying. The support group, of course, was depressing as heck. It met every Wednesday in the basement of a stone-walled Episcopal church shaped like a cross. We all sat in a circle right in the middle of the cross, where the two boards would have met, where the heart of Jesus would have been. I noticed this because Patrick, the support group leader and only person over 18 in the room, talked about the heart of Jesus every freaking meeting. All about how we, as young cancer survivors, were sitting right in Christ's very sacred heart and whatever. So here's how it went in God's heart. The 6 or 7 or 10 of us walked/wheeled in, grazed at a decrepit selection of cookies and lemonade, sat down in a circle of trust, and listened to Patrick recount for the 1000th time his depressingly miserable life story. How he had cancer in his balls, and they thought he was going to die, but he didn't die, and now here he is, a full-grown adult in a church basement in the 137th nicest city in America, divorced, addicted to video games, mostly friendless, eking out a meager living by exploiting his cancer-tastic past, slowly working his way toward a master's degree that will not improve his career prospects, waiting, as we all do, for the sword of Damocles to give him the relief that he escaped lo those many years ago when cancer took both of his nuts but spared what only the most generous soul would call his life. And you too might be so lucky. Then we introduced ourselves. Name, age, diagnosis. I'd say, when they get to me, 16. Thyroid originally, but with an oppressive and long-settled satellite colony in my lungs. And I'm doing okay.
Alright guys, let's pause there. So again, we want to think about stealing for characterization, speech, thoughts, effects on others, actions, and looks. So I want us to flip back to page 3. That was the very first page of the chapter. And I'll give you guys a hint. I want us to focus on T for thoughts. What is something that the protagonist will not stop thinking about? Eric.
Death.
The character will not stop thinking about death. And these thoughts lead her to be diagnosed with something, a mental illness first. depression. So let's make sure that we are writing this down on the right-hand side of our Cornell note sheet. Right? So Hazel keeps thinking about depth, and these thoughts lead her to be diagnosed with clinical depression.
The red on the side.
So you're gonna write it on this side.
Oh.
So Hazel was diagnosed with thyroid, that led to lung cancer, and she's been diagnosed with depression. Sorry, and she always thinks about death. Okay. What?
Does that guy still have cancer as well?
I don't think he has it.
Wait, he's been neutered? He's been neutered?
Right in the big section. Everything that you just heard about the woman, Hazel, you're gonna write it in the big section. Remember, we're stealing for the character. Speech, thoughts, effects, actions. And what was the last one again? Look. How does the character look?
All right, so again, we did talk about how Hazel is clinically depressed, but also she has another illness. Did anyone catch that specifically? We know that she has cancer, but what kind of cancer?
No.
Let's look back at our books. Let's turn to page 5 and look at it. It's very important that when we are reading books, we are actually reading. What the word say? It is in her lungs now, but where did it originate? What kind of cancer did she have? Yes, thank you.
Very good,
Hazel
Carol.
had thyroid cancer, and over time the cancer had spread to her lungs. And also, how old is Hazel?
I think it's 6.
She is 16 years old, so these are all important things that we should be jotting down.
And we got all this information by stealing, guys, right?
Uh-huh.
Very good.
And we're also introduced to a new setting. Where does Hazel Grace go? Even though she doesn't really seem to like it too much.
Where does she go?
Carol, I'm calling you even though you're not in this. Thank you, Carol. Hazel Grace goes to support group that's led by a character who has a kind of interesting background. What's the guy's name? Again, let's look back in our books.
Is it Jen?
No, that's our doctor's name.
Oh, that's Patrick.
Yes, Patrick is the
Patrick.
leader of support
Patrick
group.
Star.
Patrick is the leader of the support group.
When did he say Patrick? Wait,
Right here.
is that the
I
guy
noticed
who-
this speaks.
Yes, Patrick is, and he's the group leader. Yes.
So Patrick once had testicular
So page 4.
cancer.
Antonio, page 4.
And even though Patrick is now in remission, he still wants to help the younger people who are currently facing that horrible illness of cancer. But Hazel does not seem to like the man too much. How does she describe him, actually? Let's look back together. I want us to look at the bottom of page 4 to
I
the
got like
top
no
of page 5.
friends, eating, whatever that means, out of the years.
Well, he's too many games.
So many games, that's a good thing. Of course. I said that already.
Yeah, so thank you for pointing that
Yeah,
out.
he just won't have
So
any kids.
Hazel describes
In
Patrick
what? He
can't
as
have any kids.
friendless, divorced, eking out a meager, exploiting his cancer-casted past,
Thyroid.
slowly working towards a
Thyroid is a
master's
gland in,
degree that will never
like,
improve his career prospects.
It goes
And
up and down. Like it makes you gain weight and lose
he
weight.
escaped
And I
low
don't know
many
what
years
caused
ago
it.
when cancer
It's
took
a
both of his nuts, but spared
For suffering.
He lost his nuts?
And you shouldn't put that
Yeah.
on.
Yes.
Oh, no, I didn't
all
read
of his
that.
life.
He is now a nutless goat.
So let's make sure that we're taking these notes down in academic language, please.
Okay. All right, so we good? You guys wrote, made all your notes? Yes, you can write it.
in the big house.
Right in the big part, but I will write stealing pictures. That's how true.
Yes. So we're good
Yeah.
with this? You guys good, right?
No.
We have all the information we need so far from what we read, what we just read. Okay? So we're gonna continue.
We're going to continue. We are moving on. We are after, and I'm doing okay, and we're starting at once we got around the circle.
Yes.
On page 5. So make sure your novels are flipped back to page 5.
Got it?
Once we got around the circle, Patrick always asked if anyone wanted to share. And then began the circle jerk of support.
What?
Everyone talking about fighting and battling and winning and shrinking and scanning. To be fair to Patrick, he let us talk about dying too. But most of them weren't dying. Most would live into adulthood, as Patrick had. Which meant there was quite a lot of competitiveness about it, with everyone wanting to beat not only cancer itself, but also the other people in the room. Like, I realize that this is irrational, but when they tell you that you have, say, a 20% chance of living 5 years, the math kicks in and you figure that's 1 in 5. So you look around and think, as any healthy person would, I gotta outlast 4 of these people. The
So
only
let's
redeeming
quickly
fact.
pause right there. I want us to take a look at the bottom of page 5. That last paragraph where she says, which meant there was quite a lot of competitiveness about it, with everybody wanting to beat not only cancer itself, but also the other people in the room. Like, I realize this is irrational, but when they tell you you have, say, a 20% chance of living 5 years, the math kicks in and you figure that's 1 in 5. So you look around and think, as any healthy person would, I gotta outlast 4 of these bastards. So how does Hazel Grace kind of view life or living? Does she see it as a natural thing that we all have the right to, or what does she have to do?
She kind of looks like it's in the way. Like,
How so, Antonio?
She prefers probabilities over possibilities.
I really like that she prefers probabilities over possibilities.
So
Explain.
it's like basically saying 1 in 5 people is gonna live, she's either gonna live or she's not. She can be one of those 5 people or she's not.
And for most of us, do we see life that way? Are we constantly calculating our chances and
Yes.
the probability of us living on a daily basis?
Okay, not like that, though, not living. But just things in general, yeah.
Okay. So we think about things in general, but we don't really consider.
I want to add on to what Antonio
Go ahead.
said. I agree with what he said because like it's like she keeps mentioning how much time she has left. So it's like in the survey. And when she does it like us, we don't really worry about stuff like that. But since she has cancer, she's like worried about dying, I guess.
Yeah.
So I agree with that.
Thank you, Maya.
Just make sure that you're jotting this down in your notes.
But I said it.
Right now.
But you know, I have it in here, you know what?
I want you to remember it though.
That sounds probably good.
Okay.
But he adds it really well. Like he does good. He just needs to write.
Yeah, good?
Yes, some of them are jotting this down. You should be jotting this down on your note sheets. Again, we will be collecting these and checking them. So make sure that you are actively taking notes when we are reading together in class. What's the character name? Miss Ramos, what's her name? Hazel. Also, guys, you are allowed to look back in the book for information. That's why you have it.
Can we get an earthquake so I can go home?
They'll still probably keep you here.
We won't get an earthquake, we will get the aftershock.
Because I was about to say aftershocks, and
No,
even
but
let
we,
you go home.
we are not on a tectonic plate. So we will not feel an earthquake. We will
Look
just
at you, earth
always
science.
feel
Oh, one.
no, that was the aftershock.
Oh, that's right.
Because
The
it
initial
happened
one
in
happened 30
Jersey.
seconds before, yeah.
Okay?
Yes,
So
some
that's
kids in
what,
my class-
and I only know that because I was with a science teacher at the time.
Oh.
French.
I thought you were just pulling out information. I was like,
No,
you.
you.
Maybe
She
your
told
science
us.
class must have been so fun at that time. Yes, 3 minutes.
Oh wow, that was my
Oh, Lord. Don't worry, guys. Let's try to get to the next page.
You can't
Okay.
get the next page. I already closed
Okay.
Open it. Page 6.
All right.
More than about.
Ambassador support group was this kid named Isaac, a long-faced, skinny guy with straight blonde hair swept over one eye. And his eyes were the problem. He had some fantastically improbable eye cancer. One eye had been cut out when he was a kid, and now he wore the kind of thick glasses that made his eyes, both the real one and the glass one, preternaturally big. Like his whole head was basically just this fake eye and this real eye staring at you. From what I could gather on the rare occasions when Isaac shared with the group, a recurrence had placed his remaining eye in mortal peril. Isaac and I communicated almost exclusively through sighs. Each time someone discussed anti-cancer diets or snorting Roundup shark fin or whatever, he'd glance over at me and sigh ever so slightly. I'd shake my head microscopically and exhale in response. So support group blew, and after a few weeks, I grew to be rather kicking and screaming about the whole affair. In fact, on Wednesday I made the acquaintance of Augustus Waters. I tried my level best to get out of support group while sitting on the couch with my mom in the third leg of a 12-hour marathon of the previous season's America's Next Top Model, which admittedly I had already seen, but still. Me. I refused to attend support group. Mom, one of the symptoms of depression is disinterest in activities. Me. Please just let me watch America's Next Top Model. It's an activity. Mom. Television is a passivity. Me. Ugh, Mom, please. Mom. Hazel, you're a teenager. You're not a little kid anymore. You need to make friends, get out of the house, and live your life. Me. If you want me to be a teenager, don't send me to support group. Buy me a fake ID so I can go to clubs, drink vodka, and take pot. Mom, you don't take pot for starters. Me. See, that's the kind of thing I know if you got me a fake ID. Mom, you're going to support group. Me. Ugh. Mom, Hazel, you deserve a life. That shut me up. Although I failed to see how attendance at support group met the definition of life.
Okay, guys, let's
Still
call
10 of
it
us.
there.